Athey kids and parents! This weekend in Athey Kids, we are reading about God forgiving David. David committed adultery with Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, one of his own elite soldiers. Although David thought he had gotten away with it, God knew his sin. In the spring, the kings would go out to war, but David stayed in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed. He walked around on the roof of his palace, and he noticed a very beautiful woman. So David sent his servants to find out who she was. A servant answered, "That woman is Bathsheba. She is the wife of Uriah the Hittite." David sent messengers to bring Bathsheba to him. Then she went back to her house. But Bathsheba became pregnant. So David sent this message to Joab, "Send Uriah the Hittite to me." Uriah came to David, and David asked him how Joab was, how the soldiers were, and how the war was going. Then David said to Uriah, "Go home and rest." But Uriah did not go home. He slept outside the door of the palace. He slept there as all the king's officers did. Then David said to Uriah, "You came from a long trip. Why didn't you go home?" Uriah said to him, "The Ark of the Covenant and the soldiers of Israel and Judah are staying in tents. It isn't right for me to go home to eat and be with my wife." The next morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by Uriah. In the letter, David wrote, "Put Uriah on the front lines where the fighting is worst. Then leave him there alone. Let him be killed in battle." When Bathsheba heard that her husband was dead, she cried for him. After she finished her time of sadness, David sent servants to bring her to his house. She became David's wife and gave birth to his son. But the Lord did not like what David had done. The Lord sent Nathan to David with a story. There were two men in a city. One man was rich, but the other was poor. The rich man had very many sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little female lamb he had bought. The poor man fed the lamb. It grew up with him and his children. It shared his food and drank from his cup. It slept in his arms. The lamb was like a daughter to him. Then a traveler stopped to visit the rich man. The rich man wanted to give food to the traveler, but he didn't want to take one of his own sheep or cattle to feed the traveler. Instead, he took the lamb from the poor man. The rich man killed the lamb and cooked it for his visitor. Then Nathan said to David, "You are the man in the story. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I saved you from Saul and made you king of Israel and Judah. And if that had not been enough, I would have given you even more. Why did you do what he says is wrong? You killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword of the Ammonites, and you took his wife to become your wife. So there will always be people in your family who will be killed by a sword. This is because you showed that you did not respect me." Then David said to Nathan, "I have sinned against the Lord." Nathan answered, "The Lord has taken away your sin. You will not die." God responded with grace that was both painful and kind. God painfully exposed David's sin and disciplined him with many tragic consequences. But this pain was kind, driving David to repent and find forgiveness. God also kindly gave David another son, Solomon, through whom the Messiah would come. Our prayer is that you submit to Jesus, our perfect King, today. See you this weekend.